I remember that day as if it had just happened. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a serene backdrop to what I believed would be one of the happiest moments of my life. My name is Laura, and back then, I was living a life that was about to take an unexpected turn. I used to dream of the stage, the thrill of the spotlight, the roar of applause. My days were consumed by rehearsals and performances with my local drama club. That dream was my everything until I met Michael. He was charming, successful, and, as I would later realize, controlling. Michael didn't mince words. If I wanted a life with him, my acting aspirations had to go. Faced with an impossible choice between my passion and the man I thought I loved, I chose him. 10 years later, our marriage had seen its fair share of highs and lows, but nothing could have prepared me for that fateful evening. I stood in our kitchen, a pregnancy test tucked into my pocket. The result was positive, and I was brimming with excitement to share the news. I'd even picked up a small chocolate cake, our favorite, to celebrate this life-changing moment. But Michael walked in with a heavy, tired look, and in his hand, something far more devastating than I could have imagined. Divorce papers. He didn't wait for pleasantries. "I want a divorce, Laura," he said flatly, his voice devoid of emotion. The words hit me like a brick wall.
What?
"Why now?" I managed to whisper, my voice quivering. "This isn't sudden, Laura. I've been thinking about this for a long time," he replied, his eyes avoiding mine. I felt my world unraveling.
But why?
"Is there someone else?" The question caught in my throat, but I had to ask. "Just let's get divorced," he said curtly, refusing to answer. In that moment, the joy of my pregnancy vanished, replaced by an all-consuming ache. I couldn't bring myself to share the news of the baby. The words were caught in the suffocating weight of his cold dismissal. Instead, I stood there in stunned silence, fighting back tears. As Michael turned his back and walked out the door, he left me standing alone with unsigned divorce papers and a shattered heart. Michael never knew about the life growing inside me when he left. I was left to navigate my heartbreak alone, but within me was the flicker of something new, something that gave me a reason to keep going. The baby I carried became my strength, the light that guided me through the darkest days ahead. Though I had lost the man I once loved, I realized that I hadn't lost everything. I was about to gain something far greater, a love I never imagined, the kind only a mother can know. The years that followed were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and relentless days. Raising a child on my own was no easy feat, but my daughter, Emily, made every struggle worthwhile. She had her father's eyes, a bittersweet reminder of the man who had abandoned us, but thankfully, she inherited none of his personality. Emily was my light, my miracle, and the reason I found the strength to keep moving forward. Then, 5 years later, life decided to test me again in the most unexpected way. I was at the local grocery store, Emily skipping happily by my side, when I spotted him, Michael. He looked nothing like the polished man I once knew. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and his eyes held a weariness that spoke volumes. Clinging to his arm was a much younger woman, likely in her late 20s, radiating the kind of arrogance that made my stomach churn. "Laura." "Long time no see," Michael said, his lips curling into a smirk that sent a cold shiver down my spine. I forced a polite smile, determined not to let him see how his presence rattled me. "Michael, you've changed." He chuckled dryly. "Yeah, well, life happens." "Who's this?" he asked, nodding toward Emily. "This is my daughter, Emily," I said, keeping my voice steady. Michael's brow furrowed as he glanced between Emily and me, confusion flickering across his face. "Your daughter? When did this happen?" "After the divorce," I replied curtly, offering no further explanation. The young woman on his arm let out a mocking laugh, her tone dripping with condescension.
"Oh,
so this is the ex-wife. And the kid, huh?" Emily tugged at my hand, her wide, innocent eyes filled with unspoken questions. I knelt down, gently squeezing her hand, silently assuring her that I'd shield her from any pain this encounter might bring. Michael shrugged nonchalantly, already losing interest. Let's go, Karen. We don't have all day, he said, turning his back on us without a second thought. As they walked away, the pitiful sight of him only strengthened my resolve. I glanced down at Emily, her bright face a reminder of everything good in my life, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness Michael brought. In that moment, I made a vow to myself. No matter what happened, I would never allow Michael to bring pain into Emily's life, as he once had into mine. Life after Michael was a constant blend of challenges and triumphs, each step forward a testament to resilience. Raising Emily on my own was no easy feat, but she was my little star, lighting up my world in ways I never imagined. Every day brought fresh adventures, and every night, as I tucked her into bed and listened to her sleepy "Good night, Mommy," I felt a deep sense of pride, greater than any applause I'd ever dreamed of hearing on stage. When Emily was 6, she burst through the door after school one day, her face glowing with excitement. "Mommy, guess what?" she exclaimed, practically vibrating with energy. "My teacher says I'm good at acting. She picked me to be in this school play." For a moment, her words left me breathless. Pride swelled in my chest, but it came with a bittersweet pang. My dreams of acting, which I had let go of for Michael, were suddenly mirrored in my daughter. "That's amazing, sweetheart," I said, scooping her up in a big hug. "I'm so proud of you. You'll be incredible." As the weeks turned into months, Emily's interest in acting blossomed. She was a natural, captivating everyone with her charisma and raw talent. Watching her brought back memories of my own younger self, standing on a stage and dreaming of a spotlight. The irony didn't escape me, that the very man who made me give up my passion had fathered the child who now carried it forward. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. As I cheered Emily on from the audience during her first play, I realized that through her, a piece of my own dream had been reignited, not for me, but for her. And that was enough. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Emily and I strolled home from her drama class, we unexpectedly crossed paths with Michael. He stood on the corner, looking more disheveled than I remembered, his once proud demeanor now replaced by something hollow.
"Laura."
"Emily," he greeted, his voice stripped of its former confidence. What a coincidence. I stopped in my tracks, shielding Emily instinctively. "What do you want, Michael?" I asked, my voice cold and firm. "Just saying hello." "Is that such a crime?" he shot back, a defensive edge creeping into his tone. Emily peeked out from behind me, her curious eyes meeting his. For a fleeting moment, Michael's expression softened, his gaze lingering on her as if something inside him had cracked open. "You never told me about her," he murmured, almost to himself. "There was no need," I replied sharply. "You made your choice the day you left." Michael's lips pressed into a thin line, the softness in his eyes hardening once more. "She's mine too, isn't she?" A surge of protectiveness rose within me. "She's my daughter," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "You lost the right to call her yours the moment you walked away from us." He scoffed, shaking his head. "Still holding on to that bitterness, huh? Don't forget, Laura, blood is thicker than water." With those parting words, he turned and walked away, leaving a chill in the air and a sense of unease gnawing in my stomach. That night, after tucking Emily into bed, I stood by her side, watching her peaceful face as she slept. Michael's words echoed in my mind, a veiled threat that left me both angry and fearful. I had already sacrificed too much because of him. My dreams, my happiness, and my sense of security. But Emily was my world, and I silently vowed that I would do whatever it took to shield her from his toxic influence. He had stolen so much from me already. I wouldn't let him take my daughter's future too. The encounter with Michael left me shaken, but I had no time to dwell on it. Emily's play was a celebration of her hard work and talent, and I refused to let his presence tarnish it. The school auditorium was alive with energy that night, filled with the chatter of proud parents and the laughter of children. Sitting in the front row, I watched Emily step onto the stage, her confidence shining as brightly as the spotlight that illuminated her. Her performance was magical, every line delivered with heart, every movement graceful. I couldn't help but marvel at how she owned the stage, her joy palpable and infectious. She was my daughter, and I was bursting with pride. After the applause faded and the crowd began to disperse, I held Emily's hand as we made our way toward the exit. That's when I felt it, a tap on my shoulder. I turned and froze. "Michael." "Great show," he said, his tone casual. But there was an undercurrent of something more, a challenge, perhaps. "What are you doing here, Michael?" I asked, my voice cold and sharp. He shrugged, his smirk maddeningly familiar. "I came to see my daughter perform. She's got your talent, Laura. It's impressive." His words, meant as a compliment, only made me bristle. "Emily isn't like me," I said firmly. "She's her own person." Michael took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Sure, Laura. But let's not pretend she didn't inherit that gift from you. And now, I think it's time I played a role in her life." The chill his words sent down my spine was unmistakable. "You gave up that right when you left us, Michael." I shot back, my voice trembling with both anger and fear. He chuckled softly, the sound devoid of warmth. "Rights, Laura? They're not so easily lost, especially when it comes to Emily." At that moment, Emily bounded over to us, her face glowing with excitement. "Mommy,
Did you see me?
I was a princess." I forced a smile, pushing my fear aside. "You were amazing, sweetie. Absolutely perfect." Michael crouched to her level, his expression softening in a way that felt calculated. "You are incredible, Emily. Daddy's so proud of you." Emily tilted her head, confusion clouding her bright eyes.
Daddy.
My heart clenched, and I quickly stepped between them. "Emily, this is Michael. He's someone we used to know." Michael rose to his full height, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach churn. "We'll see each other again, Laura.
You can count on it."
This isn't over." As he turned and walked away, his words lingered in the air like a dark omen. I hugged Emily tightly, trying to shield her from the storm that I feared was about to engulf our lives. That night, as I watched Emily drift to sleep, I made a silent vow. Michael might have re-entered our lives, but I would do everything in my power to protect my daughter. I had fought too hard to create a safe and loving world for her, and I wasn't about to let him take it away. In the weeks that followed Emily's stellar school play performance, her talent began to shine brighter than ever. A local talent agent, impressed by her natural charisma, reached out with offers for small roles in commercials and TV shows. Emily was ecstatic, her excitement contagious, though I couldn't help but feel a pang of unease. The memory of Michael's reappearance still lingered, casting a shadow over her budding success. One afternoon, after a particularly successful audition, we exited the studio to find a familiar figure leaning against a car. My heart sank. Michael was there, his smug demeanor making my stomach churn. Well, he drawled, his eyes glinting with something unsettling. "Laura, I must admit, Emily is quite the little star." I stepped protectively in front of my daughter, my voice steady despite the unease clawing at me. "What do you want, Michael?" He moved closer, his tone dripping with a faux charm that made my skin crawl. "I've been thinking. Emily's entering a tough industry, and she's going to need her father now more than ever. Fame can be a lot for a kid." I narrowed my eyes, my patience fraying. "You? A father? You gave up that title years ago, Michael. You can't just show up now because she's getting attention." A sly smirk spread across his face. "Oh, come on, Laura. I am her father. I have every right to be involved in her life and her career. It seems to me that her success might be beneficial for all of us." The meaning behind his words hit me like a punch to the gut. I clenched my fists, anger surging. "You're not serious. You want to exploit your own daughter for money?" He shrugged casually, the smirk never leaving his face. "Let's just say I believe I should have a say in how her career is managed. And maybe a share of what she earns." I took a step forward, my voice firm and resolute. Listen carefully, Michael. Emily is not a meal ticket, and she's certainly not a pawn for you to manipulate. Stay out of her life. His eyes hardened, the false charm evaporating. You can't keep me away forever, Laura. I have rights, and I'm going to use them. You'll see.
With that,
He climbed into his car and sped off, leaving me standing there, my hands trembling with fury and fear. As I looked down at Emily, who was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her, I made a silent vow. No matter what Michael tried, I would do everything in my power to protect her. He had already taken so much from me. I would not let him hurt her. The days following the court's decision were bittersweet. While I felt an immense sense of relief knowing that Michael's petition had been denied, his parting words lingered in my mind like a dark cloud. You'll pay for this, Laura. They echoed in my thoughts, a constant reminder that his defeat wouldn't stop him. Emily, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the situation, returned to her usual routine of school, acting classes, and rehearsals. Watching her smile and laugh as she practiced her lines in our cozy living room was a balm to my frazzled nerves. I resolved to protect her at all costs, no matter what Michael had planned next. Michael's revenge was quick and ruthless. First came the anonymous calls to the talent agency representing Emily. Baseless accusations about me being an unfit mother started to circulate. I received notice that an investigation would be opened, thanks to a concerned tip. Though I knew the claims were unfounded, the process of proving my innocence felt invasive and humiliating. Mariah, my ever-loyal friend, stepped in as a witness, defending my parenting skills and sharing how I devoted my life to Emily's happiness. The investigators saw through Michael's petty scheme, and the case was promptly dismissed. But the damage was done. It had rattled me to my core. Then Michael turned to social media. Posts from anonymous accounts began to appear, slandering me as an opportunist exploiting Emily for fame. A mother living vicariously through her child. One particularly vicious comment read. It didn't take much to connect the dots back to Michael, though he hid behind fake profiles to avoid direct blame. I refused to let his tactics deter me. I used these challenges as teachable moments for Emily, explaining that there would always be people trying to bring us down, but that we had to stand tall. Emily's resilience amazed me. She continued to shine, her spirit unbroken by the drama unfolding around us. Then came the unexpected turning point. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a post from a former colleague of Michael's. It exposed his history of shady business dealings and how he had left countless people in financial ruin. Feeling emboldened, I reached out to Miss Thompson, who suggested we gather this evidence and build a countercase. We need to send a message, Laura, she said firmly. Michael's pattern of manipulation and deceit can't go unchecked. We worked tirelessly, collecting testimonies from people Michael had wronged and compiling evidence of his continued harassment. With Miss Thompson's guidance, we filed a restraining order against Michael, citing his attempts to intimidate and defame me. At the hearing for the restraining order, Michael looked less confident than before. The weight of the evidence against him was undeniable. Witness after witness spoke of his underhanded tactics, and when it was my turn to testify, I stood tall. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady, this is about more than just my daughter. It's about a pattern of behavior. Michael has tried to control and destroy everyone in his path, including me. But I won't let him hurt my daughter. Not now, not ever. The judge deliberated briefly before granting the restraining order. Michael was forbidden from contacting Emily or me directly or indirectly. His smirk was gone, replaced by a hollow defeat as the ruling was announced. As we left the courthouse that day, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The battle had been exhausting, but I knew we had emerged stronger. Emily's hand slipped into mine, her small voice breaking the silence. Mommy, are we going to be okay now? I smiled down at her, my heart swelling with pride. Yes, sweetie, we're going to be just fine. Life didn't become perfect overnight, but we moved forward with newfound strength and hope. Emily continued to flourish in her career, and I found joy in watching her pursue her dreams. As for Michael, He faded into the background, a shadow of the past that no longer had power over us. We were free. We were unshakable. And together, we would continue to build a life filled with love, laughter, and light. The nightmare of that day would forever be etched into my memory, but the overwhelming relief of having Emily back in my arms eclipsed all else. As I hugged her tightly, tears streaming down my face, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was the end of Michael's reign of terror over our lives. Back home, Emily clung to me, refusing to let go. She was shaken but resilient, her small voice trembling as she recounted what had happened. "Mommy, he kept saying he was my dad and that we should be a family," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I told him I already have a family, you." Her words struck a chord deep within me, fueling my determination to protect her at all costs. That night, as she finally drifted off to sleep in my arms, I knew what I had to do. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Michael faced charges of kidnapping, violating the restraining order, and child endangerment. The evidence against him, combined with Karen's testimony and Molly's account, painted a damning picture of his intentions. In court, Michael tried to defend himself, claiming he only wanted to reconnect with Emily. But the judge saw through his lies, declaring his actions manipulative and dangerous. He was sentenced to a significant prison term, ensuring he would no longer be a threat to Emily or me. The relief was palpable. For the first time in years, I felt the chains of fear break, replaced by a sense of security I hadn't known in a long time. With Michael out of our lives, Emily and I focused on moving forward. She threw herself into her acting, finding solace and joy in the role she played. I took steps to rebuild my own dreams, joining a local theater group and rediscovering the passion I had once sacrificed. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We leaned on each other, finding strength in our shared resilience and the love that had carried us through even the darkest times. One evening, as we sat together reading lines for Emily's upcoming role, she looked up at me, her eyes filled with a wisdom far beyond her years. "Mommy, do you think we're finally free now?" she asked. I smiled, stroking her hair gently. "Yes, sweetie, we're free, and we're going to make the most of every moment." Emily's face lit up with a smile, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to believe it. We had faced the storm and emerged stronger, our scars a testament to the battles we had fought and won. Together, we would create a life filled with love, laughter, and hope, a life where fear had no place and our dreams had no limits. The media frenzy that followed Michael's arrest was both overwhelming and disheartening. Headlines screamed his name, detailing his actions, while talk shows dissected the story. For Emily and me, it felt like living under a magnifying glass. The constant attention was exhausting, but I stayed focused on one goal: protecting Emily at all costs. Despite the gravity of his actions, Michael's legal team worked tirelessly to reduce his sentence, citing emotional distress as their primary argument. It was infuriating to see his manipulative behavior twisted into a plea for leniency. The thought of him walking away with minimal consequences was unbearable. Emily's talent agency, wary of the scandal tarnishing her rising career, suggested a settlement to bring the ordeal to a close. After much deliberation, I agreed, but with one non-negotiable term. Michael would relinquish all parental rights to Emily. No contact, no influence, no financial ties. He would be erased from her life completely. The settlement was bittersweet. Michael avoided prison time, but his reputation lay in ruins. The truth about his greed and neglect spread like wildfire, and he became a social outcast. He lost his job, and friends distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with his disgrace. Through it all, Emily remained my guiding light. Her strength and bravery inspired countless people, endearing her even more to her growing fanbase. Offers for roles continued to pour in, but she approached her career with humility and grace, never letting the spotlight overshadow her kind heart. We moved forward, finding joy in the little things, reading scripts together, baking cookies, and exploring new parks on weekends. Emily's laughter filled our home, a soothing balm to the wounds left by Michael's betrayal. One quiet evening, as we sat on the couch surrounded by the comforting glow of fairy lights, Emily looked up at me with her big, soulful eyes. "Mommy," she asked softly, "are we safe now?" I pulled her close, wrapping her in the warmth of my arms. Stroking her hair, I whispered, "Yes, sweetheart. We're safe. I promise." As her eyes fluttered shut, her trust in me unwavering, I felt a profound sense of peace. For the first time in years, the weight of fear lifted. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger, united by love and resilience. The scars of our past would always be there, but they no longer defined us. Emily and I had reclaimed our lives, building a future on our terms. Together, we learned that even in the face of adversity, love could light the way to brighter days. And as I watched my daughter's chest rise and fall in peaceful slumber, I knew without a doubt we were finally free.